Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are continuing on your purpose. Hope you guys are continuing to conquest yourselves and conquest things around you. It is great to be with you guys. Busy week. Trying to kind of get one in here before we start a lot more work this next couple days. But love you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the feedback, the likes, donations. Just keep giving those ideas to me. I love talking about different ideas, and I'll help you guys as much as I can. All right, some shout outs before we talk about our topic. Heaven Sent, thank you, my friend. Queen's Loneliness Lime, thank you. Agustin March, thank you. Dirty Mint, thank you. Johhborzz, thank you. Gilian from Brazil, thank you. Welcome. Palmiczz, thank you. TKO, as usual, my friend. Ybmty 1629, thank you. Mr. Fred Webb, 1, I think it is, thank you. Lego King is cool, thank you, Lego, appreciate it. Why Not You, 783, thank you. Samuel F, I think, thank you, my friend. Voice, thank you. Cameron Vaughn. The phone, 90, I think. Jen Ray sub 347. 6 months. Congratulations from France. Keep it up, my friends. For my friend. EA7, thank you. Charlie Chimp, thank you. Alan M, thank you. And Donny Brown, thank you. All right, so let's talk at 1 minute and 30 seconds. Let's talk about our topic here. This comes from our viewer, Phoenix Rising. And Phoenix Rising is talking about the idea of sex and semen retention. So let's talk about that and kind of like dissect a little bit of it. You know, I kind of like going back to the basics so we kind of think about what we're doing here. All right, so the key that we're talking about is we want to become warriors, a high-value male. In this day and age now, we're at a battle, and the battle is for us to lose our masculinity through this nonsense called toxic masculinity and all this other kind of stuff out there that men should not be this way, right? We're losing. People are trying to take that away and tell men this is not what we should be. And of course, pornography and all these other things fit into this, because if you drain men, they're going to be a lot weaker. They're going to be more simpish. They're going to be more weak when it comes to mental strength and to physical strength. And so they're going to fit into that pattern where females can actually dominate them more than they would have before. And so the whole pattern and thought pattern fits together. If you think about it from a bigger picture, this whole society really kind of wants to bring men into a lower state than it's been before, a lot lower. And that's what we're fighting. We're fighting to keep our masculinity. Now, we have the power to do that, but we don't realize it because we're taught a lot. We've been brainwashed. I was brainwashed for 47 years on the idea that you have to be a man, you have to release, or you have to chase women around, or you have to go ahead and, you know, look at pictures or have wild parties and have sex all the time, all that kind of stuff. Well, when you really think about it and you look at history and you look at the biblical background, if you're religious, you know, like most of us are on this channel, you're going to look at the biblical teachings that you're following. And obviously me, it's a Christian Catholic religion. And to me, the idea obviously is celibacy, but you have brahmacharya, you have sophism, you have a lot of those type of things we talk about when it comes to holding on to your semen and holding on to your energy. Now, why is that crucial? Any text you're looking at will tell you that success, longevity, abundance is in retaining, not losing all your energy. In fact, you become depleted because of that. So why are people self-destructing, self-abusing themselves all these years? Well, it comes down to the fact that this idea of sex has been turned around in a society, portrayed, promised to people for a lot of different reasons. Control. Some people use sex for power. Some people use sex for pleasure. All these type of things are used when in reality, the only time you should really be having sex is to procreate. But we have gotten into people's brains the idea of lust. And the idea of lust is basically saying that when you're lusting after something, that is your power to be a man. A man who doesn't lust after something, there's something wrong with that person. This is why we had the funny movie, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, right? People think that if you're a virgin and you're transmuting and all that kind of stuff, something must be crazy. Something must be wrong with you. And this is the whole idea in our society, that you should go out, have sex, have all this type of intercourse, have multiple women, intercourse all the time. That's what a real man is. Well, that destroys men, as we're finding out day by day. You guys are experiencing as much as I am. If you're holding on to your semen, if you're sitting there and transmuting it, if you're accomplishing things like all the great people of history, you'll see that you become that great person. You become like a godlike type person, right? Because God is in you. He's staying in you. You're not releasing God. And if you look at it that way, you're releasing God every time you're releasing. And the only time you're doing that is when God wants to create a child and you're procreating with a female to be able to have that child. That should be the only time you do that. If you look at the Bible, you look at the idea of discharging and all that type of stuff, you're not clean for 7 days? You have to take a shower, you have to get clean because you're unclean. You've committed sin, right? And this is just releasing. So every time you release, you're basically kind of destroying something God has given you. Now, again, as we talk about other species, other species will, do a lot of things in trying to procreate. The males, we talked about the praying mantis gets the head bitten off by the female after, because they're so weak. The bees, the male bees, they suffer a lot. They can get killed very easily after they do all their hard work, especially when they're releasing. So males become weaker. And our society knows, people know that. They know that. We talked about that. One of our viewers talked about the prison situation where you have all these, criminals who are, angry and high levels of intensity. You put a woman in there and you have them having intercourse, they become weak, docile, because they're releasing all the time. And the funny thing is, women don't want that man after they release several times because they become weaker. What they want is that strong male who has that energy. They feel it. They thrive off that energy. This is why they're so attracted to the energy, because they sense you have that power. You're a man. You're a man. And that's the key thing. But we're losing that manly ability because we're buying into a lot of these things that we see on TV and society about it's great to have sex, do this, drink, have sex, debauchery all the time. That's the way to live. Well, as time has shown, as I've seen over the years, that's the way to die. That's not the way to live. And so what you're trying to do is the happiness you're getting, and you guys know what I'm talking about, after a period of time of retention, you're feeling more peace. God gives you that. You don't need all this other stuff. It may look good. It may look good on television. It may look good on a TV and a phone. It may look great. It's a temptation, an illusion. Just remember when you think about this, how much makeup women put on just to give you an appearance of an illusion. The fantasy. When you actually have the intercourse with someone, 90% of the time, it's nothing like your fantasy. This is why men get involved with fantasy stuff, because they can make up a fantasy that's going to make them excited and get them to release. The whole thing, my friends, is thinking about the idea that sex should basically just be for procreation. If you're retaining, you should not be lusting. Lusting is something that's going to hurt you a great deal. You should be thinking about the fact that, how am I going to look at this woman? If I'm involved with a marriage with her, if I'm involved in a situation, relationship with her, how do I look at her? You should be looking at her as someone who is your partner, even if you look at the situation as a business relationship. Only going to have procreation when you want to have children. All these other types of things will allow you to get away from all these other sin types things you're talking about. Envy, jealousy, all these things. They're not that important. Because the bottom line really is that those people who are, having sexual relationships all the time, body counts over 100, 200, sometimes 250, 300, right? Those people are dying slowly, in some cases quickly. And this is why you see problems of sexual dysfunctions at 20 years old, 22 years old with males. Females who you can look at their eyes and they're clueless, they're soulless. Because they've been, so many guys have jumped on them that basically they have no way to tell any kind of relationship about anything. And so they kind of walk around like zombies. And this is what I talk about with zombies. People who have no energy left, basically. And as you see them in their 30s and 40s, they look like they're 70s and 80s. And you can tell what's happened to them by the look in their eye, the aura, and the things you're looking at. Because you can tell if they deplete their energy. So this whole idea of lust is where the problem is. And so what you've got to do is learn how to control it. As we always talk about, the birds can fly over your head. The temptation can fly over your head. But do not let them rest in and nest in your head. That's going to get you down a slope, a bad slope, of focusing too much on lust and focusing not on strength, of purpose, of goal setting, of things that you need to do to get yourself away from the temptation and to be something that God wants you to be. The women, don't worry about them. Because a lot of those cases, the women they're looking for validation, they're looking for attention, they're looking for a lot of things. And what you have to kind of focus on is finding ways to do God's purposes. Now, if there's a woman in your life, and obviously we get lonely, we need companionship, that's one thing. You can find women to do that. But it's a whole difference in having companionship with somebody than sitting there and trying to have sexual relations with that person all the time. In fact, if you're having, if you're lonely and you're needing a person, more times than not, it's not sexually oriented. It's more just companionship. And that's something you should think about as you develop this relationship with this person. Is it something that I really want to go down the line eventually and procreate with? Or is it something I'm focusing on just trying to be able to say, okay, let's come together. Let's come together as a partner. We're working on this together. If we're going to have a child, that's great. If we're going to get married, that's great. But if we're just going to be friends, we don't need to kind of go to that next step. And that's where the self-control, and that's where the whole idea of retention is important. Because if you're able to control yourselves, if you're able to kind of say, okay, I don't want to release my energy, then you are now moving into a whole different realm of living. You're moving away from the worldly types of things that we see every day, and now you're moving into a whole spiritual base. Because God is with you, and you're not losing all those nutrients. And we're going to talk about the components of retention and all the things that are within semen at some later point. Maybe the next one will do. But the idea is that, as Phoenix Rising mentioned in his discussion about this too, is that you want to be able to look at sex the right way. And it's not easy. In this society, we are brainwashed into focusing on sex as such a great thing. And I'm not saying necessarily that sex is a bad thing. Obviously, we talk about it outside of a marriage, or when you're married, affairs, those type of things. Of course, that's a sin, right? And of course, the things we're talking about is sin. But having, intercourse with a person you love and having a child, that's a wonderful thing. But people misuse it so much because what they're doing is using it for pleasure, their own pleasure, a very internal type of thing. Not external, it becomes internal. And that's why we have to kind of keep control of how we look at this. And again, it's not easy, right? It's not an easy thing at all. This is why, going back to the old days, when they try to look at priests back in the old days to become celibate, the reason was because they figured those priests would be super strong because they could transmute that energy. This goes back to the alchemists back in the 1400s, back to Egypt, back to the old. Everybody has had this thought pattern. They understand what retention and semen does. But over time, the societies become debased. Everyone. This is why the societies, after about 250 years or so, they destroyed from within. How do you think the Roman Empire destroyed themselves? Yeah, they got taken over eventually, but they started by within. They were strong. But those lascivious behaviors, orgies and sex and all kinds of stuff like that, destroyed the men. The same thing happened with the Incas and the Mayas and the English, the Tudors, all these things. What happens is that generations go by, it is hard to control these people. And these people get power, and now they think like gods. And now they can do anything they want, and they forget about God. And when you forget about God and sin, then all of a sudden you're bound to repeat that over and over again. And this is the whole tragedy of human life. That when you are in God's world and you are working with God and you're with God, life is very abundant. But what happens is that when people get abundance and they get some strength and power, they're not attributing that to God. They're attributing it to themselves. And nothing you do should be attributed to yourself, in my opinion. Yes, I have a doctorate. Yes, I played on, championship high school, college teams. Yes, I have a great family. Yes, I have all this stuff. Did I do any of this stuff myself? No, I was a tool for God. I was a tool for God. I was a tool for God because that's what I was here to do. Do I help people now? I love helping people. But God is using me as a tool to teach these type of things, to talk about these type of things, because this is an important thing for our society, in my opinion, to help our young men out. And this is, to me, is crucial. So nothing I've done, family, kids, success, business, whatever it might be, is really me. It really is God working within me. And God is the one who's kind of pushing you. So if you listen to God and you follow God, you'll be successful. So any kind of success, things like that, even looking at retention and find the book, Kendler's book, Fountain of Youth, that was all God's intention. Yeah, I put the wish out there that I wanted to have a long life and to find the Fountain of Youth back in 1990s. But God is the one who gave it to me. God is the one who showed it to me. But you got to believe in God. You got to believe in your Creator. You can't take that credit yourself. Once you start doing that, you lose your humbleness. You lose your fear of God. And you cannot lose your fear of God, because God will come back and show you who God is. Job found that out, right? Babylon found it out. Sodom and Gomorrah found it out. All these towns found it out. They found out that if you go away from God, you will be destroyed one way or the other. You either destroy yourself, God will help you, or God will just destroy you at some point with some kind of event going on. This is why it's important to stay in the Word. Stay in your relationship with your Creator. Stay in that focus. That's what your focus is. So when we talk about the idea of sex, Phoenix rising, I love the comment, and I love your topic. Do not focus on the idea of lust. Think of sex only in terms of procreation. Think of women as just human beings. Whether they look good or not, you can admire their looks. That's great. But just keep it at that, right? Women can like you. They're going to like you anyway because of your energy level. Look at it as I do. Flattery, that's great. Very nice. Nice compliment. Thank you very much. But beyond that, you're going down a slippery slope anytime you do it. And that's something to watch out for. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you, Phoenix Rising, for the topic. And thank you guys for participating in shout-outs. I'm going to try to catch up some more as I go along. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. And I always leave you guys with two great things. One, every day is a new day to a great warrior. And number two, guys, remember to battle on! All right, God bless you guys. Have a great evening.